She poured me tea, and suddenly, everything I feared felt irresistible. I don't know why that evening felt different the moment I stepped into her apartment. Maybe it was the way the hallway light flickered behind me, or how she didn't smile right away, just looked at me like she was still deciding whether to let me in. "Long day?" she asked quietly. Her voice always did that, dropped into something softer when she spoke to me. She stepped aside, letting me walk in first, and the warmth hit me. Her place smelled faintly of chamomile, and something like citrus. I found myself breathing slower without meaning to. She closed the door gently, like she didn't want to disturb anything. I wasn't supposed to be there long. I told myself it was just to drop off the books she'd lent me, nothing more. But the moment she looked at me, really looked, I forgot the entire excuse. There was a pause, a long one. She brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, but her hand lingered at her neck a second too long. She did that when she was thinking of something she didn't want to say. "You look tired," she said. I laughed under my breath. "You always start with that." "Well," she murmured, turning toward the kitchen, "you always walk in like the world just pushed you around." I followed her without being asked. I always did. Her place wasn't fancy, but everything felt intentional. The dim lamp by the couch, the half-read book left open, the small vase on the counter with a single white flower. She moved with this quiet confidence, a kind I'd only seen in people who learned the hard way how to be on their own. "You want tea?" she asked. I should have said no. I should have kept things simple. But the truth slipped out before I could stop it. "Only if it's the same one you made last time." That surprised her. Her hand froze slightly before reaching for the tin on the shelf. "You remembered," she whispered. Of course I remembered. I remembered everything, with her every glance, every awkward smile, every moment she looked away too quickly. I remembered the first time she touched my wrist while laughing, how my heart reacted like it had been waiting for that exact contact. She poured hot water into 2 mugs, and the steam curled upward, fogging the small window behind her. For a moment, she stood there in the glow of the kitchen light, her shoulders drawn, almost tense, like she was bracing for a question I hadn't even asked. "Sit," she said, nodding toward the small table. I did. She set the mug in front of me but didn't sit across from me. Instead, she pulled out the chair diagonally, close enough that our knees nearly touched when she crossed her legs. She wrapped her fingers around her own cup. "You always look calmer here," she said softly. "Like this place gives you a break." Her eyes flicked up to mine, just a second too long. "I think it's because you're here," I said. Her lips parted slightly. Not a smile, but something warmer, more vulnerable. She looked down at her tea, but her breathing changed, that tiny shift you only notice if you're paying too much attention, which I always was. "You shouldn't say things like that," she said, but her voice cracked just barely at the end. "Why not?" I asked. "Because," she said, lifting her eyes again, "you don't know how much they matter." Her words hit something in my chest, sharp and unexpected. She didn't look away this time, neither did I. The room felt too quiet, like everything around us was waiting. She reached forward, maybe to adjust her cup, maybe to touch my hand, I couldn't tell. Her fingers hovered above the table, hesitating. And then, a sudden knock on her door. 3 loud, hurried knocks. She froze, her hand pulled back. My heartbeat kicked hard against my ribs. She whispered my name, soft, shaken, almost guilty. And whoever was outside knocked again. Her pinky against mine felt like the quietest mistake in the world, the kind you pretend not to notice because admitting it out loud would burn everything down. But she didn't move. And I didn't either. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She flinched. Her hand snapped back so fast the chair legs screeched against the floor. I should check that," she muttered, already standing. Her voice was unsteady, like she needed distance before she said something she couldn't unsay. She turned her back to me, lifting the phone with both hands. Her shoulders tensed the second she saw the screen. Just a small tightening, but enough to give her away. "Is everything okay?" I asked. She hummed too quickly. It's nothing." But she locked the phone immediately, face closed off in a way that told me it definitely wasn't nothing. Before I could push further, the door suddenly opened. Not knocked, not hesitated. opened. Her son stepped in, hoodie half zipped, eyes darting between the two mugs on the table, and then, to me, hey, he said, confusion flickering across his face. Didn't know you were here. My pulse kicked. He wasn't supposed to see this. Not me in her kitchen. Not her looking like she'd been caught somewhere between nervous and something else. She cleared her throat, too forced. He just came by to return a book, she said. He raised an eyebrow. At night? She didn't answer. I stood. Too fast. Too awkward. Yeah, I was just leaving. But when I tried to step around, he frowned slightly. You okay? You look kinda, I don't know, weird. I'm fine, I said, forcing a smile. Just tired, he shrugged, already moving toward his room. All right. You guys have fun being book people, I guess. He disappeared down the hallway, leaving the door half shut. She exhaled shakily the moment he was gone. That was close, I whispered. Her hand pressed against the counter, fingers gripping the edge. This can't happen again. What can't? This. Her eyes flicked to mine, scared, conflicted, longing all at once. Us. Whatever this is. It's not fair to him. I stepped closer before I knew I was moving. It's not like we're... She cut me off. It doesn't matter what we are or aren't. It's complicated. Too complicated. But she didn't step away. Not when I was close enough to hear her breathing. Not when the air between us tightened again, pulling us back into the gravity we kept pretending wasn't there. Tell me to go, I said, quietly. Her lips parted but no words came out. Instead, her gaze dropped to my mouth. Just for a second. Just long enough. She caught herself, shaking her head, but her voice trembled. You shouldn't be here this late. That's not what I asked. Silence. Then she whispered, barely audible. If you stay, I won't be able to pretend I don't feel something. My heartbeat stuttered. She finally looked up, eyes raw, vulnerable, pleading for an answer she didn't want. But, before either of us could move, the hallway light flicked on again, footsteps shifting. Her son's voice called out, Mom, can we talk? She closed her eyes, breath shaking, and I knew the distance between us was about to get a lot more dangerous. She stepped away from me so fast she almost knocked over her mug. Her breath trembled as she whispered, Stay here, please. Just stay. She walked down the hallway, pulling the door to her son's room mostly shut. Their voices were low, muffled but tense, sharp edges hidden behind polite tones. I shouldn't have listened. But I did. Why was he here this late? Her son asked. We were just talking, she said. You never talk to my friends. He isn't. It's not like that. So there is something? Her inhale was audible even from where I stood. Then silence. Heavy. Long. When she finally returned, she didn't meet my eyes. She pressed a hand to her forehead like she was holding herself together by a thread. I can't keep doing this, she whispered. Doing what? Talking to me? Letting me in? Pretending we were nothing? Her shoulders lifted, then fell a quiet collapse. He's starting to notice, and she shook her head. I'm being stupid. You're not stupid, I said. You don't understand, her voice cracked. You don't have anything to lose. I do. That hit deeper than I expected. She started pacing, not fast, just small, tight steps, like she was walking around her own fear. Do you know what it looks like? She asked. You're his age. You're in his world, and she gestured at herself with a laugh that wasn't really a laugh. I'm the woman who should know better. I stepped closer. But you don't want to stop. She froze, completely still. Don't do that, she whispered. Don't say the things I'm trying not to think about. Her eyes lifted to mine, and everything she'd been burying rose to the surface. Fear, longing, guilt, something sharper, and jealousy. Real, quiet jealousy. You spend time with girls your age, she murmured. They're uncomplicated. What does that have to do with... You laugh with them, she said, biting her lip as if she regretted speaking. You don't look at me that way in front of them. I blinked, heart thudding. What way? She stared at me like I was the last question she wanted to answer. The way you're looking at me right now. He swallowed hard. She stepped back like she'd crossed a line, but I matched her step, refusing the distance. "Tell me you don't feel anything," I said softly. "If you say it, I'll walk out right now." She shook her head, breath-catching. "Don't make me do that." "Why not?" "Because I'll leave." The words landed between us, hot and irreversible. She pressed a hand to her chest like she was steadying her heartbeat. "I can't be what you want. I can't risk hurting anyone. I can't." I took her hand before she could finish. She inhaled sharply, not pulling away, but not moving closer either. Her fingers trembled in mine. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Of me?" "No," she said, eyes glistening. "Of how easily I could fall for you." Silence slammed into the room. We stood there, her hand in mine, the world outside irrelevant. Then footsteps approached again, fast, urgent. "Mom?" her son called out, closer than before. "I need to talk to you now." She jerked her hand back, fear flooding her expression. And just before the door swung open, she whispered, "We can't hide this anymore." The door swung open before either of us could react. Her son stood there, face pale, hoodie half-zipped, hands fidgeting with the zipper pull. But he wasn't alone. "Mom," he said, voice sharper now, "this isn't just about you, is it?" I froze. Behind him, leaning in the doorway, was my roommate, my best friend. The one who knew every time I sneaked into her apartment after dinner, every whispered laugh I'd sent back from the couch. He'd somehow followed me tonight, probably curious, or maybe suspicious. Her eyes went wide. Mine did too. "No," she said, voice low, trembling. "This isn't. He shouldn't be here." I heard enough," my roommate said. His tone wasn't angry, not really, but it carried a weight I hadn't expected. "You've been spending a lot of late nights here, man. I think it's more than just talking." I opened my mouth to explain, but nothing came. She pressed a hand to her chest, fingers digging into her shirt. I didn't want anyone to know. Not like this." The words hung between us like smoke, twisting tighter around my chest. Her son looked down, jaw tight, fists clenched. "Mom, what's going on? You can't lie to me like this." I swallowed hard, caught in the middle. The guilt hit me first. Not for me, not even for her. For him, for the trust she'd built over years and now shattered. She turned toward me suddenly, eyes fierce but pleading. "You have to leave. Now." He hesitated, torn between walking away and stepping closer. I can't just." "You have to," she interrupted, voice breaking. "For him, for me, for all of this." I stepped back reluctantly, heart hammering. I could feel her tremble even from the few feet between us. Her son's eyes flicked to me, confusion and suspicion warring in his gaze. "I don't understand," he whispered. "Neither do I," she admitted, voice raw. "I shouldn't have let this happen. It's wrong. All of it." But her hand didn't move. Her fingers curled slightly toward me, a silent plea she didn't dare speak. And then, my roommate spoke again. "You two aren't just hanging out, are you? You're risking everything. Don't you get that?" I glanced at him, then at her. Her eyes glistened, defiance and fear tangled together. She swallowed, trying to regain composure, but the tremor in her lips betrayed her. "I don't care," she whispered, almost to herself. I can't care anymore." Herr son flinked. "Mum, I have to," she said louder this time, voice steadying but fierce. "I won't pretend. Not tonight." I felt the pull again, impossible to resist, even as guilt pressed against every nerve. The air between us sizzled. Every instinct screamed caution. Every heartbeat screamed desire. And then, in the chaos of fear, guilt, and longing, she stepped closer to me, not fully, but enough that the heat from her body brushed mine, almost electric. I wanted to reach for her hand again. I wanted to pull her close. But before anything could happen, her phone buzzed again. A message. From someone neither of us wanted to hear from. And I knew in that instant, nothing would ever be the same. She stared at her phone like it had burned her hands. Her lips pressed together, quivering, and her breath came in shallow bursts. "Who is it?" I asked softly, stepping closer. My fingers itched to touch her, to reassure her, But I hesitated, unsure if I should risk another wrong move. She didn't answer at first. Instead, she looked up at me, eyes wide and raw, as if weighing every word I might say. "It's someone from my past," she finally whispered. "Someone who thinks I still belong to them." My chest tightened. I knew enough about her life to understand the shadows she carried, the mistakes she never fully let herself forgive. And suddenly, every stolen glance, every quiet smile I'd cherished, felt fragile, like it could shatter in a heartbeat. I took her hand this time, slowly, gently. Her fingers trembled in mine, but she didn't pull away. That small refusal to step back told me more than words ever could. "You don't have to deal with it alone," I said. "Not ever." Her gaze softened, but a flicker of fear passed across her face. "It's not just fear," she said. "It's everything. My choices, my regrets, the way I've been hiding." I brushed a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "You don't have to hide from me." Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to speak. But no, words came. I felt her inhale, shaky, and then finally she leaned just a fraction closer. The air between us hummed, charged with all the unspoken tension that had been building for weeks. "I shouldn't," she whispered. You're too young for me. It's reckless. It's..." I caught her gaze, firm and unwavering. "I don't care." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. She pressed a hand to my chest, feeling my heartbeat as if it anchored her. "I can't promise it won't hurt," she said, "but I can't stop myself either." The vulnerability in her voice, the rawness in her eyes, it was more beautiful, more terrifying than anything I'd ever felt. I cupped her face, thumb brushing along her cheek. "Then we'll face it together. All of it." For a moment, she froze, and I feared she'd pull away. But instead, she closed her eyes and leaned into my touch. A quiet surrender that didn't erase the fear, only layered it with longing. We stood like that for a heartbeat too long, suspended in a fragile moment between what could be and what might destroy us. Then, softly, she whispered, "If anyone finds out, it could ruin everything." "I know," I said, voice low, "but I'd rather risk everything for this, for you." Her fingers tightened against my chest, her breath warm against my lips. She opened her eyes, looking at me with a mixture of fear, relief, and something tender that neither of us could name yet. We didn't kiss. Not yet. Not fully. But in that quiet, trembling pause, we both understood something undeniable. Whatever came next, we were together in this messy, impossible, real. The phone buzzed again on the counter. She glanced at it, then back at me, a faint, weary smile tugging at her lips. And in that look, I felt it. We weren't safe, we weren't certain, but we were no longer alone. Somewhere between love and chaos, we had chosen each other. The next step was still waiting. The apartment was quiet now, save for the faint hum of the heater and the soft clink of our mugs on the counter. The phone still buzzed occasionally, but we didn't touch it. Somehow, the world outside had shrunk to this small, fragile space between us. She leaned against the counter, shoulders loose for the first time in hours, and I sat beside her on the edge of the couch. Our hands brushed soft, accidental, lingering just long enough to send heat through both of us. "I never thought I could feel like this," I said, voice low. "Not with anyone, and certainly not..." I trailed off, unsure how to finish. "Not with someone like me," she offered quietly. Her gaze met mine, steady but gentle. "I know what you're thinking. You don't even have to say it." I swallowed, heart hammering. "I don't care. I don't care about age, about what's complicated. I just know that I don't want to be anywhere else." Her lips curved into a tired but real smile. "Neither do I," she admitted. For a moment, we simply sat there, letting the silence hold us. Let us breathe each other in. No words could capture the weight of everything that had passed the tension, the longing, the fear of being caught, the whispers of what we weren't supposed to feel. And yet, here we were. She finally reached for my hand, threading her fingers with mine. Warm, real, unwavering. "We'll take it slow," she said, almost as if convincing herself as much as me. "No rushing, no pretending, just this." I nodded, feeling a sense of calm I hadn't known in years. Just this, I echoed. The city outside buzzed with life, indifferent to what we were building here. But inside, it felt like our own little world, a place where mistakes could be forgiven, where desire and fear could coexist, where love didn't have to make sense to anyone else but us. She rested her head on my shoulder, small and fragile, but grounding. I leaned into her, feeling the rise and fall of her breath, letting the moments stretch like they might never end. "Do you think anyone will ever understand?" she whispered. "Maybe not," I admitted. "But we don't have to explain ourselves. Not tonight. Not ever. If we don't want to." Her fingers tightened slightly around mine. "Then let's just be us," she said. And in that moment, I realized that all the fear, the risk, the secret glances, and trembling touches had led to this two people, messy, flawed, entirely human, choosing each other anyway. The night settled around us, warm and quiet. Outside, the world kept moving, but we didn't need it right now. Not when we had this. I glanced at her, and she met my eyes, a gentle question in her gaze. Did I feel it too? Yes, absolutely. And as the light from the city spilled softly across the floor, I knew this was only the beginning. We had survived the chaos, the rules, the impossible odds, and somehow, in the middle of it all, we had found each other. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional, slow-burn romance stories that feel real. Comment below with your favorite part and who you related to the most. We love hearing your thoughts.